Let's go out, we'll take no prisoners.
Welcome to Unleashed, an indie guide to a guide to indie producing. My name's Avi Federgreen, and today we are doing episode 108, which I'm happy to say that I have somebody who I've admired, I've respected, I've been fortunate enough to work with on a few occasions, the wonderfully talented Megan Follows. Welcome, Megan.
Well, what a fantastic introduction and end of interview. Great. Let's leave it a high note.
I'm really grateful for you to be here. And we've tried to do this a couple times, and I'm glad we got to do it today. Um, this is a very transparent podcast, so feel free to just let her loose as you feel comfortable in doing so. But let's start with a bit of backstory about how you got into the business. Obviously, you were in Anna Green Gables, which many people know you for, but your body of work extends far beyond obviously that show. And you're a producer, and you're a director, and you're an actress. So why don't you talk about the early days and to what you're sort of starting to do today?
Well, it's funny. By the time I'd done Anne, I'd already been working for many years because I started even when I was 4. My parents were both actors. And so I was a theater kid, theater brat, kind of went around and saw my parents do incredible works really all across the country. They would kind of pack us up, and the summers would be either out east or we'd be at the Stratford
Right.
Festival as kids. So I would say that I came by it honestly. And then the story goes that my family, we were sitting watching something when I was pretty young, and 7 or something, and I turned to my parents and said, I want to do that. I can do that better. I was a little precocious. You had to be in that family if you wanted to get some attention. So I started, and then it was commercials was the first things, and then short films. And we were just at that time when companies like Atlantis Films, so before it was Atlantis Alliance,
Right.
did their first ever short film, which was called The Olden Days Coat, based on a children's book that Margaret Lawrence had written.
Okay.
And I had done a few others. I'd done something called Claire's Wish. And what's sort of cool is that, I have memories of being in Peterborough in an old farmhouse with Margaret Lawrence sitting around a table,
Wow.
and it would have been, we were filming this and it was fucking freezing. And this old farmhouse had no heat. And then we'd do different scenes. And then we'd climb, we'd get into the kitchen where there was a big old wood stove and an old table, and Margaret Lawrence would just be smoking. And I look back at what an extraordinary gift, what an honor it was to be in the presence of someone like that. At the beginning of sort of other people's launchings into filmmaking.
Right.
So it's kind of like that, man.
And so, obviously being an actress for many, many years, how did the whole transition into other parts of the business, like directing, etc., like how did that sort of happen?
It's funny for me, given how long I'd been in the business, it came about later, partially because I was a mom very young. And I can tell you, especially when I was thinking about this, thank God there have been some changes, but there was not support in place for you when you had children. In fact, you were often fired when they
Right.
found out you were pregnant, if you were on a show.
Right.
And it was something you had to hide. And then it was a whole lot of managing. And I was a single mom too, very early. So I had basically a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old, and found myself in a world. Yeah. And I didn't know, I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other, which was showing up for me in work. And although I was always very grateful, obviously, for film and television, sometimes it was the work in the theater that really kind of anchored me at times and challenged me, because you had to step up. You were working on things, I always said, you were working on things that were greater than yourself. So you were always reaching for something. It was very rarely in the theater settling. You knew you were working on classics. So there was a kind of terrifying, at its best, a terrifying kind of humility you had to approach it with. And then just honestly, a sheer joy of becoming someone else. And I was going to say that I'll get to answer your question, but it's interesting because I'm at the end of a chapter in my life now, because my mom is elderly, and I'm sort of looking at all, and I lost my dad a few years ago, sort of the things that propelled me into who I am. Who am I now once they're gone? And I know I really realized so much of who I am and why I did what I did. From very, very young, it was a safety mechanism for me, because I was a big dissociator as a kid, because I grew up, there was a lot of loyalty in my family, but there was also a lot of dysfunction. There was a lot of alcoholism. There was a lot of, then consequently, violence and things. So for me, it was never like you worked because your life depended on it, and literally because it was your escape hatch. Mm-hmm. So, and really through the grace, I always say, the theater gods, the film gods, they would sometimes have my darkest moments, which seemed the most painful. I would be thrown a lifeline of something to be someone else, to suit up and show up.
Right.
So cut to, really, I realized that I knew more than I thought I knew. And I think perhaps that is something that many women, I'm going to say, often, I was going to say, yeah, we do suffer from it. You kind of, you put up and you keep showing, and then finally you go, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. It's not as terrible, oh, actually I can do this. Because I had survived and navigated on film sets and television sets. And I can tell you, without saying names, that, there was a lot of people who did not know how to help you, or did not know how to direct you, did not know how to offer you. You were working on stuff. Some of it was good, some of it was, and you had to make it work. You had to make it work. So you kind of go, oh, fuck. I get it now, and then opportunity, because let's be honest too. It took till me directing being in Rain, a series, which went a number of seasons long enough that I could position myself, prove myself to the American showrunners and the network, which was CW. And it was like the studio was CBS, it was CW, and CTV was involved, but mostly it was CW, that after however many episodes I said, I want to direct, they gave me an opportunity. They said, okay, you can shadow. So for the second season, I shadowed a number from Charles Benamy to Norma Bailey to, more names will come, Holly Dale, to all the different people that came. And that was the first show, after being in the business for over 30 something years, where I worked with more female directors than I had in the previous 35 years or whatever it was.
Right.
I mean, really think about that. That's so, and there was a mandate.
Right.
Women, period.
Right.
We were open. It didn't make women meant it was diversity, it was women.
Right.
And that was the to which I am profoundly grateful, because they had to hire women. But it also meant now you were up against a well-oiled machine where people who had been working a long time really knew what they were doing.
Right.
So now the expectation was, so they said you can shadow. And then we got a third season and I went in. But as an actor, I had really been, I loved Rain. I will just say, Rain was a fucking blast. It was outrageous. Right. It was basically a medieval soap opera is what Rain was, with everything thrown in. I think by the end of it, I'm fucking a witch and having a threesome, and like Rain was outrageous, right? And they gave my character a lot because, again, and the working actor in me, the daughter of working actors, knew you do your best.
Yeah.
Never take anything for granted. So I loved that show because I just kept being, the writers loved writing for me. Well, that's a blessing, because you're not going to, if you can't be seen in a show where I was the oldest person in the show.
Right.
So that was my introduction. But they also said, you need to direct something. And at that time, I had an opportunity to direct my first play.
Right.
So I was now, I was working now 7 days a week, and that from the second to the third season of Rain, because I took on directing a play because I had a good relationship with Knightwood Theatre Company, from the Penelope ad, and Kelly Thornton's, their mandate too was to support and develop female artists, and so I jumped into the fire with a piece which was an extraordinary learning experience in Allegra Fulton. It was a one-woman show called The Carousel, which was the English language premiere of a French-Canadian play by Jennifer Tremblay.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, that was a really fascinating, and Allegra had done something called The List, where she had gotten a lot of acclaim for The List. So there's, I think, a trilogy of pieces, and this was the second one now, a new one.
Right.
And very different way of thinking from French to the anglicized interpretation in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, meaning it was harder. So that was also fascinating, because I've done Chekhov's, I've done Ibsen's, I've done other plays where you are using its translations, but not contemporary. And that was an incredible experience, because sometimes it's, as I'm sure you know as a director, it's having your voice. Yeah. Having your voice in the right place. It's knowing how to guide something. It's knowing how to, and it's discovering it when you're new. It's learning about people. It's sometimes pushing people out of comfortable areas, but in a way, it's catching people. I had worked. I think you're learning it's not going to be hard to get me to talk, so just shut me the fuck up.
That's
great. I just asked you this question.
It's okay. It's great.
No, I worked with some pretty fucking mean directors when I was younger, and I would say some downright bullies, and in the theater too, and people who were wickedly intelligent and smart, and I would watch them break people just because they could. They would look for the weakest link. And
but what's the advantage as a, like,
I don't think there's any advantage.
I don't think there's any advantage to doing that.
In that.
No.
I don't.
No. And I would say I've never worked on a show like that in episodic or feature land. But I have heard of directors like that, and I don't see how you can get the best performance out of an actor being an asshole.
I completely agree with you. I think what it taught me, because this person was extremely an extraordinary director, and their craftsmanship was really astounding. And they were old school. They were British. I grew up in a family where my mom was British. So I understood cruelty, I will just say, of a certain generation, with
Hmm.
humor, with slicing and dicing. And it's a thing that can also happen in, who's the, wickedly funny,
Right.
right? So, but what I learned was, like any bully, when you stand up to them,
Hmm.
and you say something, it shifts the whole paradigm.
Right.
And I was able to do that. And I was able to say, I will do anything for you, but not if you talk to me that way.
Right.
And if you think that, whatever. And I remember sort of a response like they didn't for a moment. And it was like gauntlet dropped. Okay, now, no, is that a way you want to work? No, but sometimes, sorry, that is like, there, I would say there are a lot of bullies. And sometimes people bully in very different ways.
Yeah. Totally.
So it's not
Yeah.
always so obvious
No.
how you're getting it. Yeah.
No. Can you talk a bit about the difference between directing theater and directing TV or film?
Yeah, I can, and I can also. I would also say this applies. Well, no, there's two different things. The interesting thing about theater, from a performance standpoint, which also from a directing standpoint, is that you have the momentum and the rehearsal to build.
Right.
Right. It's
Right.
like you're building it.
Yeah.
You're putting it together,
Hmm.
but it's structurally, uh, it's a concept, it's an idea. Then the
Right.
pieces, the framing comes in, and then you're launching it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so you get to, the hard part as a director in theater is that you then step back and you walk, it's not yours anymore.
No, you
And
let it go. Yeah.
you have to let it go.
Yeah.
But you've been a part of the conception, the nurturing, the birthing, the beginning. Then there's a weaning, and then
Right.
and then you let it go. In film and television, it's the bit of your as an actor, you're focusing on a minutia of a number of things.
Right.
So with any moment, you can't carry the whole.
Right.
You're starting with a thing, and now you're pulling it apart.
Right.
Here's the script, here's the thing, and now we're going to look at this moment.
Right.
Be in this moment.
Right.
And we're going to really be in this moment. We're going to be in this moment from six angle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dissecting
Yeah.
moments. And someone once said to me, which was true, is that I think it applies in both, but it does certainly apply in theater. In theater, what's amazing is you sit back and you are looking at the whole.
Right.
You do not have the close up or the cut
Right.
to tell your story.
Right.
You are responsible for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience sits. And where I was profoundly grateful for this one person who I would say was a bully, was they were a master at blocking.
Right.
So they knew how for you to look at a hole, and for one person to turn their head on, let's say, far stage right, and your eye, it would take you to that moment happening there, which would take you, and you went, holy fuck, they have just done what a cut would do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So blocking, I'm a big believer and a lover of blocking, which I'm sure there's some producers out there going, she takes so long in blocking. You don't take, nobody gives you enough fucking time in blocking.
No.
In television. And it's like, it's just going to be a walk and talk, and then you'll just stop here, and you're like, whoa, why am I stopping here on this line? Like,
right.
And it's like, I'll stop, but give me a reason to stop. Like, and because otherwise it all starts to fall apart. And
that's the beauty of film, is that all that stuff can be discussed ahead of time, between the actors and the director, and conversations happen on set while, between scenes or lighting setups or whatever the case, does this line make sense? If not, what is the resolve to that? What's the motivation for doing so and so and so and so. Yeah, you still have a clock ticking because you can only shoot so many hours in a day to achieve whatever it is on the call sheet. But I do really appreciate the dialogue that, and I was on a series where I had directed a couple of episodes, and they had the voice of God when we were in the studio, and I hated that because
Oh,
you're
what,
you're
like a literally,
it's a microphone that you're
yeah.
talking to your cast who are in the set, and I'm going, I can't do that. I need to see their face. I need to see their reaction to the conversation that I want to have with them about the scene that we're about to shoot or that we're shooting. And to me, and what I've always appreciated in really great directors is the conversation that happens between a director and an actor, whether it be between scenes, whether it be during a scene, when when you're shooting your master and trying to figure out all of that stuff, which will then lead into your coverage and all that stuff. Being able to see one another and react off one another is invaluable. And I feel like on episodic television, you don't really get that. You've got 8 pages to shoot.
Yeah,
It's a
it's hard.
formula. This is how we want to achieve this. It's a wide and it's a close up, and then we move on kind of thing, which it leads to zero creativity for the most part, and takes a lot of the juice out of a director's ability to really knock it out of the park.
And I think it depends on the show. I love sets too. I love
Mhm,
props and I love sets. I mean, I love
mhm,
detail because basically to me, and which applies in both theater and film, but it is critical in film.
yeah,
It, it's the devil is in the detail because
yeah,
it's every moment. It's specificity.
yeah,
It's and then we listen. One of the interesting things I really was able to see, and literally by starting in theater, it is like a score because there's the whole thing. You're a director back here. And I realized the actors are responsible for an extremely um, uh, limited but deep chord.
mhm,
They all have they're resonating in their fields, right? And but it's
right,
deep, but it is not um, it's short. I'm not sure it's
right,
the right word because the director is back. You are responsible for the shallower, wider. You are now
right,
seeing the whole thing. So it isn't that it's shallow, but it's like your chord
mhm,
is this your note. And I would always say to actors, this is a score. We have to
mhm,
think of this. What's your note? You're now playing their note. That's not your note. And
right,
this is a challenge with a lot of actors is that we can pick up on other people's notes.
right,
And then we stop listening, like as an
mhm,
audience, because we're all doing the same thing.
right,
Everybody's being really quiet. I don't know why everybody's really quiet now. So I'm like, what? Like, no, you're not. As soon as you
right.
say cut, your voice is 3 times as loud. Now it's kind of a tactic I find, but um, it's I love I love two things. I absolutely love actors,
Mhm.
but I also have a love of photography. I do a lot of photography, and I'm a very visual person. So I understand that there is a reason why we're doing film and television. It's a visual medium.
Right, right.
So that story, that feeling, that emotion can be told sometimes with imagery and not.
Less is more.
Less is more, and literally body language
Right.
is critical and placement within a frame. And
Hmm.
so, it's all those
Is
magic.
there anything that you take from your acting career that you have used as a director?
How do you, I mean, a lot, but
Is
um,
it like do you think about conversations you had with directors when you were on the floor on a show as an actor that you've used to help communicate something to an actor on a show that you're directing, for example?
I do, and maybe actually, sadly, sometimes it's more how I was not helped or
Right,
not spoken,
right, right.
um, that I actually realize. I think one thing I think would, I love to. I'll keep building with actors often when I'm working with them because
Right.
okay, you got that. Now I want this, but I want it too.
Hmm.
So sometimes,
Right.
and I love actors that are like, because then they keep layering it. And again, that sort of detail, and that's coming from um, probably, just having been exposed as a kid to a lot of theater, to a
Right.
lot of layers of good writing.
Right.
And sometimes when the writing, like you got to find those layers, but they're always there. It's interesting,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because we are like that as human beings.
Hmm.
We are humming on we got a lot going on, even when it seems like we don't. There's
Right.
there's that one moment. So I was really impressed when Charles Benamy came in. He did a bunch of Rain, and one of the things that he would do, and you've already just said this, is that between takes, you take your time where you have to take it because you're not always given it
Yeah.
in the way we need it. And he was pretty masterful between setups, between this. He would be grabbing actors already, putting them ahead. Now that's hard for some people, meaning
Hmm.
that like you have to be willing to leave that behind.
Right.
You're here, but now you're asking me to go there. But I know exactly why he was doing it
Right.
because he knew he wasn't going to have the time.
Right.
And that was a valuable lesson because sometimes, certainly on those days with big page counts and low budgets.
Right.
Great
And I
combo.
mean, those conversations, I mean, when I was just a producer listening to these conversations, and I learned a lot over the 30 years that I've been involved in this business, of listening to the conversations between actors and director, and points that I picked up about, you know, shots and things like that, and actually, obviously, watching a lot of content to learn a bunch of things. But the one takeaway for me is those conversations between actors and director about that collaboration process to get to where you need to get in a scene, emotionally or whatever the case may be, is so invaluable. And that collaborative scenario is just so wonderful. And then when you see it through fruition on a monitor, it's the
It's
best feeling in the world.
it's really about creating a safe environment
Yeah.
for someone to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
that veil to come down, and your skin to be thin,
Right.
and it's I really it is really beautiful, especially when you're asking certain people to show a kind of vulnerability, or they don't come in with it at first, and it's there.
Right.
That the character has it. Doesn't necessarily, whatever, but it's like whether it's someone who's got to be processing some deep grief or something, and there's a masking, which is interesting.
Hmm.
But I remember working with an actor once, and I just knew because they were in the masking of the feeling and
Hmm.
not the feeling, and it was a couple of times, and then I remember just like, and the people, they were like, haven't we got this? And I knew there was something so much more interesting under that.
Right.
That I remember kind of just, it was like, it was a rolling take, just kind of crawling up and just sort of whispering in their ear something about that person,
Mm.
that lot, like saying something, which kind of just, and then literally crawling back, going, okay, and action. And they started to do the scene, and they were doing the masking. But what was happening now was because I was talking about that feeling is actually going to get right. So yes, but it's because it's like the fear of the title. I was able to, say it in an emotional language because I understood that.
Right. Right.
Gave them the space. And it was in that episode, it was like, I think 3 men had to have these big emotional scenes, these young men. And
Right.
remember later the execs came up to me and they said, in my cup, they were like, you made me cry. And we cried 3 times in this episode. I said, thank you. Because it was what was needed.
Right.
Because it was surprising. Because I think the thing that's always so interesting about emotion,
right,
it's tricky as an actor, is because you want it to be spontaneous.
Right.
Now if it's written, it's in there. Now there's an obligation. So what are you doing? You're either actively avoiding it,
right,
but it's got to be there, right? So it's kind of that process of respect for really how weird it is what actors have to do sometimes.
So what do you think now, here we are, 2025, trying to make films, and I know you've got some stuff in development, obviously, and it's hard now, right? It's hard to get stuff off the ground. It's hard to make stuff, and realize some dreams that you might have about specific projects or whatever. Based on, now you've been in the business for as long as you have, and now you're trying to create your own projects for yourself. Where do you think things are and going?
Well, it was interesting because I was listening to some of the other episodes of yours, and I know that everybody is feeling a little paralyzed because we're not sure, because the rules are changing.
Mhm.
And there's kind of a stalling tactic, it seems, on sort of from above.
Right.
There is definitely more than just an inevitable shift. There's something that is very frustrating. I think in Canada we're used to frustration.
Right.
I think that we take, way too long to properly launch and develop, and so that it is, you really have to keep yourself reigniting your passion in something. That part is really hard, and I have to say, counterproductive to us actually continuing to make interesting shit. That because we develop things to death in Canada.
100%. But I also think some of the things that are getting made are completely underdeveloped.
And then I completely agree with you on that.
Right.
So you're not wrong on that too.
Yeah. I mean, I find most stuff now is underdeveloped. And should never have been made to begin with.
Right.
Like, it's not commercial. There is no audience for it. A lot of personal stories.
But let's be honest, personal story. I mean, again, to your point, this comes back to kind of like structure.
Yeah.
Structure, and having perhaps the right mentorship.
Yep.
In place. Yep. Having, things, we were so many people were so excluded from the game for so long.
Yeah. That
there's sort of a tidal wave that's happening. And some of it's extraordinary, and some of it, to your point, things are being launched. We're kind of in this area of it sort of seems like anything can go, but at the same time, it comes back. I always think, it does come back to detail and specificity, right? And it does come back to it's so hard. We're so compared in Canada,
right,
to a very powerful, loud neighbor that has so much more money,
right,
and so many more bells and whistles.
Yep.
And so much more time, and also so much more accountability for things too. Mm-hmm. And that part is good, because if This shit doesn't work in the States, fuck it, you're out. Like,
Right.
and we tend to have people, we tend to, I think do a bit of the opposite where it's like, this ain't working. Why are we, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's, but you got to have a fucking tough skin right now, a tough soul and a thick skin, because I feel like never more than ever, storytelling is critical right now.
Yeah.
Finding a way to reach across the aisle, the universality of human experience and storytelling, and sometimes that is personal. Sometimes the deeply personal is hugely universal, right?
Yeah, but it depends on the storytelling too, right?
It's all in the storytelling, right? And that's because, like, the piece that you're representing of my film, Stealing the Sky, that took, that was a long journey to get us to where finally making it.
Right.
And basically that became because we were hitting ceilings with development.
Right.
And then you had to have a huge name. But then like this thing where something was never going to happen unless we decided to do it ourselves. So, I mean, that was indie.
Well, and we'll talk about Stealing. I want to talk about Stealing the Sky because it's a great little film, and it's doing really well in the festival circuit now, and it's coming out very shortly. But what drives me crazy is for years they talked about trying to establish a star system in Canada, and yet they say, well, what actor are you going to have in your movie that's not from Canada? And I'm going, well, why can't they be from Canada? I've been fighting this battle for so long that, look, I'd put any actor or actress up against anybody outside of Canada any day of the week. I have tons and tons of friends and colleagues that I've worked with for many years that, are kick-ass awesome and that I want them to be in my films. Yet I'm being told by funders that, no, you have to go outside of Canada to get your lead or whatever. And I just, like, why are we not focusing on building that star system here? Like, it's a contradiction in terms. You say that that's what you want, but when it comes to giving you the money to do it, they go in the other direction, right?
100%. I mean, I will say that if at the time the only way they were going to get the government funding to do Anne of Green Gables back in 1985 was that number one and number two had to be Canadian.
Right.
And they did not want to, I mean, they being I was not their choice. They wanted an American in the role of Anne, and they wanted an American in the role of Marilla.
Yeah.
And it was government mandates that said, you want the money? No. And it was the CBC. No. Right. You have to. Right. So first of all, I think we have to have those protections because we cannot compete, not from a talent standpoint. We're not talking about that. And of course, what's so deeply frustrating for those of us who watch films from all over the world, and you see someone you've never fucking seen them before, and they're brilliant, but you think you're enjoying it because it's made well, and you go, now I'm introduced. I love this. Of course we can do that. Right. Of course we can, but we're often not. But it has to be, I feel it has to be because a lot of it, especially if it's taxpayers' money. Right. It should be, but also because, to your point, let's celebrate the extraordinarily diverse talent pool we have, and geographically so. That is one of our challenges. I find that we are pitted against. I mean, you tell me. I feel like provinces are pitted against each other.
Oh. For sure. Who's going to get the shows and all that other stuff? For sure.
This is going to, this regional, and then there's 2 people in Ontario, and then so then Ontario is really hard.
Yeah.
Because then we're a service industry up here in, in Ontario, and it's expensive to film in Ontario, and certainly in Toronto.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like something's not right
I
in
mean, I think what's not right is, first of all, best script should always win,
right.
and best actor or actress should always win. Whether doesn't matter where they're from. Best actor, actress wins. And we don't do that at all. And um, you know,
And then now here's a question, because this is why our business is tricky, because it is subjective.
yeah.
There is an element of subjectivity that comes into this.
Well, for
Right?
sure. Like,
And there always has been.
yeah.
Uh, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like they should, I would rather see, 10 films that are made on low budgets,
Hmm.
and you start just supporting more.
Yeah.
But yes, to your point, they have to be tight. You have to, it comes down to the story, then sort of everything going, into a few places. I don't know.
I know. It's just it drives me nuts. But let's talk about a
Let's
film
not
that's
go
coming out
for
on the 27th of this month in at the Review Cinema in Toronto, a film that you were heavily involved in for a long time with the writer Marie Dane, and Penny Noble, God rest her soul, who was the producer of the movie. Um, this was a film of passion to make, both on you and Marie's um, case. Um, Not funded by traditional funding, obviously, um, and went through a significant process of, um, you know, trying to get made, and eventually, because the main location, which is basically about the film, was about to be shut down and turned into another type of building, condo or whatever, and the clock was ticking. You had to shoot the movie before you couldn't shoot in that building anymore. So, um, you don't have to get into the gory details of it all, but I mean, you made the decision that you got to push the button. It's time to go and make the movie. And with the limited resources financially that you had, with the cast that you deeply wanted to work with as a director, you were also an actress in it. Um, and now it's out or coming out for release through Indie Entertainment, which I'm grateful to have the opportunity.
Thank you,
Um,
Abby.
but you're releasing the film theatrically, which is an awesome experience. But at the same time, you're still getting invites from festivals in Ontario and elsewhere, which is awesome. And not many films can say that they're getting the opportunities that Stealing the Sky is getting. Why don't you take a couple minutes to talk about all of that?
Well, one of the things that I love about this film is that I think it really is a film also of our time, because
Right.
it's it's kind of a coming of age story of a middle-aged woman, but it's really also addressing the housing crisis in a city like Toronto. Uh,
Right.
and at the same time, when you make your life, when your life is in the gig economy, which so many
Right.
people are now living, and you make it off of your space, and
Hmm.
that's being taken from you, what do you do?
Hmm.
Gigs up. That's
Right.
one kind of driving theme. But the other thing, part of it, which was so beautiful to me in this piece, is that across the street, and all of this was true because it was based partially on the writer's experience of living in this building, 90 Ontario Street, which is
Hmm.
very eclectic, had a lot of artists. Was an old factory. I believe they made the shoes for the soldiers in World War I.
Wow.
Okay, so it had incredible history, and these fucking beams, right? And I love architecture too. That's
Mm.
my soft spot. So I'm deeply aware of, in a city like Toronto, how much we are tearing down.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to do that for space, but we are losing so much of our history. So that's an
Right.
across the street from the building is a refugee center, and it really is a Sanborn house. But one of the other elements in the piece is that people come who have already lost everything.
Right.
Now they're here in Canada, and they have to begin again. So you have these kind of parallel stories of people and an experience, which catalysts, different catalysts for it. But I think that's one of the beautiful elements of the piece that's explored.
Right.
And how often when we're in big urban environments, you know, there's a very thin wall literally between you and another human, but you feel so lonely in your experience. And some cities are lonelier than others, you know. Right. And so we kind of explore that element with humor, because and I think that's what's beautiful, because it ultimately it's a you know, we don't use the word dramedy now, or drama is a dirty word. Dirty word. It's comedy with some how are you marketing it, Avi?
Well, I mean, look, it's a taste of real life. I mean, it really is. And you know, the new Canadians experience as well, right? As well as the already established Canadian experience.
I'm the daughter of a refugee. My mother, I'm a first generation Canadian on my mother's side who came to Canada when she was 15, 16, and she just had a little tweed coat and some of her records, and she was found herself in Montreal in minus 40-degree weather,
right,
with no family.
Right,
family hadn't gotten out of the country. So yeah, it's about survival with humor and reinventing yourself. Really, it's about also, okay, you got to reinvent yourself. We all we do that a lot in our industry.
Right. So we're coming close to the end of our time together, but I wanted you to maybe talk about some of the things that you're working on or hope to make and things like that, because I think the audience would love to know where they can find some of your work that is finished and is coming out, but also things that you're hoping to get made soon.
Well, one thing I'm in development with is a documentary that I'm working on, and I'm working with Tom Powers from Front Door Productions, and he just had a documentary at TIFF that was about Godspell.
Right.
That had a beautiful big premiere at TIFF. So Tom and I and my sister Edwina and my daughter actually are making a documentary, and it's around the fandom of Anne of Green Gables.
Wow.
So it's a 3-part series that we're, and I am directing, and I'm going on a journey. It's a personal sort of exploration about this character and the character's impact globally still to this day, which is enormous.
Wow.
And what it is about this from countries all over the world. It's a very fascinating to me, the impact that this little girl, this voice had for people. So so that's exciting, because that's my first foray into documentary.
And that's nice.
I'm also developing a 6-part limited series that I'm working on with Susan Coyne about the life of the author, Lucy Maud Montgomery, who is the author of Anne of Green Gables. And I had sort of read and then acquired the rights to the preeminent biography on her life called Wings. And it was a hell of a life, and a very deeply moving, beautiful, tragic, wild ride. That one of our most, to this day, successful Canadian authors, and people still know nothing about her personally. So her journey is also a beautiful tale of mental health, creativity, and the power of your artistry when a world is trying to erase you. So I feel very strongly that this piece is something that we are, we've been in development. We have a couple scripts. We're working on that. And I would play Lucy Maud in her midlife till the end of her life.
Right.
So that's exciting. One thing I just finished was that I did I produced, along with a very talented young group of women, a short film which we just shot out in Nova Scotia. So that's in the process of being edited and being together, supporting a kind of a collective of young female writers.
Nice.
And a kind of a new voice, a new generation, right? Being there, wanting to be there for young artists, young women in a way that perhaps I felt people were not there for me that same way. Otherwise, we have to
give back.
We got to give back, and we
help the filmmakers of tomorrow, because if we don't, there will be no tomorrow.
No, it's really true. And I think part of it is I realize it's almost a mentality of scarcity sometimes we have in Canada.
Right.
More, and that, we were talking about funding, it's like, it's mine, I got to get it, Right. But really, the problem is that, well, guess what's coming over here as these other forces, and we can't keep being pitted against each other. That's what we really have to support all of our Canadian stories, all of them.
Totally.
Because,
CanCon matters for sure.
100%. Yeah, it does.
And actually, since the beginning of this conversation, all I've been thinking about in my head is, she worked with Margaret Lawrence.
Yeah.
Why isn't it that I don't remember the last property of Margaret Lawrence's that actually got made into a movie?
Yeah, I feel like recently that they were doing a play of one of her pieces.
Yeah, but I don't think feature film wise, I'm hazard to say that there hasn't been much of Margaret Lawrence's work produced this film, so there's something to think about.
Absolutely.
Mike Boone, Mr. Producer, would you like to come enter this conversation?
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Megan Follows and Avi, because you were on my show was it last week or maybe
last week? Yeah.
Last week. It was great. I was remembering 10-year-old Mike was very excited to watch a CBC movie called Hockey Night.
Pretty awesome.
But Mike, 51-year-old Mike, remembered it was called She Shoots, She Scores.
Oh, you are right.
What am I right about? Because I think I'm wrong. Am I right about something?
No, maybe that.
But it makes no sense. Megan, it makes no sense because you were a goaltender, so you're not going to be scoring.
Hey, man, you don't know that.
She scored in other ways.
Well, we didn't.
But that was Yannick's.
Back in those days.
Yannick was in that show, right?
His first job.
Yeah.
And Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Coach. Yeah.
It must have been hyped.
There's a blast from the past.
But CBC must have marketed it heavily because, I remember it was appointment viewing for 10-year-old Mike, who was a hockey fan, but it's like, I had to be there. Megan Follows from Anne of Green Gables in a hockey, I had to watch that.
Other way around, you saw that one first, man.
Is that right?
I did that before I did that.
That's mind blow too. Wow.
I did that, and then I did the one that I was going to say. When I first talked to you on the phone.
Yeah.
The very first time.
Yeah.
I sort of introduced you, and you were on set, so you were kind of,
yeah,
very professional and whatever. And then, and, we ended the conversation.
Yeah.
But your phone didn't hang up.
Okay.
So I was hearing you talking about.
Okay.
You didn't know that I was still listening.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, what's this dude gonna say about? And you were like, wait a minute. She's been in Silver Bullet? What do you mean? Silver Bullet. She was in Silver Bullet. You had this whole conversation.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, what the fuck's he gonna say now? What's he?
It blows my mind.
I got some more cred. I could just feel like
no, but it blows my mind every time I look at your IMDb. The stuff that you were in that I had forgotten that you were in, and like
I
stuff
can't.
that I watched like a lot. And it wasn't, I never really watched Anna Green Gables, but I've seen you in so many other things um, that, you know, were profoundly, uh, that have profoundly affected me. And I, you know, you were in Rain, and my wife or partner, Allison, worked on Rain. She was the production coordinator on Rain. And that show was, as you said, it was fucking crazy.
It was crazy. I mean, when
Crazy.
it was, you know, we did 22 episodes a season,
Yeah.
old school, right?
Yeah.
We had 10-month weeks,
Horses, you name it, everything.
days, and
Yeah.
I had come off of, you know, theater making nothing, and
Yeah.
I was so grateful for this opportunity to
Yeah.
play in a castle in fabulous wardrobe. But it was also
At
so.
Kipling.
But we did the pilot in Ireland.
Right. But then the rest was in at the sound stages at Kipling.
Sound stages at Kipling. Parker.
Awesome. Well, listen, I mean, you know how much
Yeah.
you mean to me. We spent years and years and years not knowing one another, and now we can't get rid of one another, which I think is awesome. And we've been talking exclusively about trying to make something super indie,
Yeah.
which we're going to try to do sooner rather than later, because both you and I have ants in our pants, and
Yeah.
we can't sit on it. So I'm hoping we can do that soon. And I wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk today. I learned a lot of stuff about you that I didn't know. And I appreciate you both as an amazing actress and a really great director. And all you out there, September 27th and 28th, Stealing the Sky. We'll be playing at the Review Cinema in Toronto. Check it out. There's tickets still available. And the film will be released on VOD in the early part of 2026. And I want to say, too, that I recently was able to secure a deal with Hollywood Suites for Stealing the Sky, which will be playing on Hollywood Suites in 2026 as well. And thank you to Suzanne and Sharon over at Hollywood Suites for and David Kynes for supporting the film and supporting Megan and Marie and the rest of the crew, and all in the name of Penny Noble. This episode is dedicated to Penny Noble. We miss you, and sending love to you and Grace. Thank you, Megan, for being with us. So that's the end of episode 108 of Unleashed, an indie guide to film. We'll see you next time.